A lively, colorful meadow with a smiling white rabbit under a large oak tree. A blue butterfly perches on its ear, and vibrant yellow, red, and purple flowers surround them. Warm sunlight filters through the leaves. The rabbit's eyes sparkle as it stops by a bright yellow daisy. A butterfly lands softly on its ear. "I love the sunshine," it whispers to the flower. A cheerful rabbit with big sparkling eyes, sniffing a bright yellow daisy in a sunny meadow, with a butterfly resting on its ear and soft green grass around. The daisy sways gently in the warm breeze. "The sun makes me grow tall and strong too," it replies. The rabbit hops closer and sniffs the bright petals. "And your color is as happy as a golden day." A cheerful sparrow perched on the ground next to a bright yellow daisy, with tiny white seed puffs drifting in the sunny breeze, while a fluffy rabbit watches nearby. A little sparrow lands beside the daisy, chirping, "I love how your seeds fly on the wind. They dance like tiny fairy wings." The rabbit nods, watching a seed float past. "Maybe one will grow into a new daisy friend tomorrow." A cheerful daisy with a soft glow on its petals, a tiny sparrow planting a seed in the soil with its beak, and a rabbit patting the earth nearby, all set in a sunny meadow. The daisy smiled, her petals glowing in the morning sun. "Every seed carries a little bit of my hope," she said softly. The sparrow tilted his head and tweeted, "Then I will wish upon one for you." He fluttered up, caught a floating seed in his beak, and gently tucked it into the warm earth nearby. "Now you have a friend for sure," he chirped. The rabbit patted the soil and whispered, "Sleep well, little seed." A smiling daisy in a meadow at sunset, leaning toward a tiny green sprout emerging from dark soil, with a sparrow perched nearby and a rabbit gently touching the sprout with a paw. Soft golden light and long shadows. The day passed in a gentle breeze, and as the sun began to dip behind the hills, a tiny green sprout pushed through the soil where the seed had been tucked. The daisy leaned closer, her petals brushing the new leaf. "Hello, little one," she whispered. The sparrow landed softly beside her and chirped, "Look, hope has grown legs." The rabbit's nose twitched as she nudged the sprout with her paw. "It's a promise," she said. The sprout shivered, reaching toward the fading light, and the daisy felt a warmth spread through her roots. A peaceful twilight meadow with a tiny green sprout with two leaves glowing softly, a tall white daisy leaning toward it, a sparrow perched on a rock, and a rabbit curled up nearby, all under a violet and gold sky with a single shimmering dewdrop on the sprout. As twilight painted the meadow in shades of violet and gold, the tiny sprout unfurled its second leaf, catching a dewdrop that shimmered like a tiny star. The daisy's petals glowed softly, reflecting the evening's last light. "You're growing so fast," she murmured. The sparrow fluffed his feathers and sang a quiet lullaby, while the rabbit curled up nearby, her ears twitching with contentment. The sprout leaned toward the daisy, its stem brushing her leaves, and together they listened to the cricket's first song. The meadow held its breath, a moment woven from hope and friendship, as darkness gently wrapped around them like a blanket. A sunny meadow at dawn, a small green sprout with two leaves and a ladybug on one leaf, a cheerful daisy leaning in, a rabbit watching nearby, soft pink and blue sky, dewdrops sparkling, gentle and warm illustration style. When morning painted the sky in shades of pink and blue, the sprout stretched its stem toward the sun. A ladybug landed on its newest leaf, her red shell dotted with black spots. "Good morning," she buzzed. The sprout trembled with joy. The daisy leaned closer, her petals brushing the ladybug's wings. "You have a visitor," she whispered. The rabbit hopped over, her nose twitching with curiosity. Together, they watched the ladybug clean her antennae with tiny legs. The meadow hummed with new sounds. A bee's drone, a butterfly's flutter, a worm's silent wiggle underground. A sprout felt its roots grow deeper, gripping the soil like tiny fingers. A cheerful ladybug on a green sprout leaf under a soft gray rain cloud, with a daisy leaning close, and a curious rabbit nearby, all in a lush meadow with gentle raindrops falling. The ladybug finished cleaning and smiled at the sprout. "Soon you'll have flowers of your own," she said. The sprout felt a warm tingle, The daisy nodded and added, "Every leaf and petal tells a story." Just then, a gentle breeze swept through the meadow, carrying the scent of rain. The rabbit's ears perked up. "Storm's coming," she whispered. The sprout shivered, but the ladybug stayed close on its leaf. Overhead, clouds gathered like soft gray sheep. The first raindrop landed on the sprout's leaf, and another followed, plink, plink, plink. Instead of fear, the sprout felt a new kind of strength. It drank the water, and its stem grew taller, stronger, reaching toward the sky. The daisy, rabbit, and ladybug all huddled near, sheltering the sprout with their care. A children's book illustration of a tiny green sprout with one small pink bud in a sunny meadow after a rainstorm. A rainbow arcs across the sky. A ladybug sits on the sprout's leaf, a rabbit and a daisy are nearby, all glowing with warm light. Soft watercolor style, gentle and hopeful. The rain fell faster now, a curtain of silver beads. The sprout no longer shivered. It swayed, catching every drop. Its leaves spread wider, soaking in the storm's song. "Listen," whispered the daisy. The rabbit curled closer. The ladybug's shell gleamed like a tiny umbrella. Then, as quickly as it began, the rain stopped. A rainbow arched over the meadow, and the sprout's first tiny bud peeked out. A pink promise against the blue. A peaceful meadow after the rain, with a small sprout showing a pink bud beginning to open. A rabbit, a ladybug, and a daisy are nearby, all looking at the bud. In the background, a colorful rainbow arches across a blue sky. The ground is wet, reflecting light. Style: watercolor children's book illustration, soft pastel colors, gentle and magical atmosphere. The meadow held its breath. The rabbit's whiskers twitched as a single drop of water, caught in the sprout's new bud, trembled and fell into the soil. The ladybug spread her wings, and a soft breeze carried the scent of wet earth and blooming things. The daisy leaned in, and the entire meadow seemed to listen. Then, from the bud, a faint, sweet fragrance rose, a whisper of honey and rain. The sprout had grown taller overnight, and now its stem was strong, straight, and green. "Look," said the rabbit, pointing with a tiny paw. Deep inside the bud, a petal began to unfurl. A close-up of a delicate flower bud unfurling in a sunlit meadow, soft petals glowing with pale light, a tiny ladybug on a nearby leaf, a rabbit with alert ears in the background, dewdrops on green stems, warm, golden morning atmosphere. It was pale at first, almost translucent, like a sliver of morning light. Then, another petal stirred, and another, each one stretching slowly into the air. The ladybug leaned closer, her tiny breath brushing the bloom. The rabbit's ears stood straight, as a soft glow seemed to pulse from the flower's heart. The daisy whispered, "It's opening." And the meadow exhaled. A close-up of a glowing white flower opening in a sunlit meadow, with a ladybug on a leaf and a rabbit nearby, both gazing at a tiny golden seed in the flower's center, soft morning light and dewdrops. Gently, the petals unfurled one by one, revealing a tiny cradle of petals, where a seed as small as a tear lay shimmering. The ladybug touched it with her antennae, and the rabbit let out a quiet gasp. "It's a promise," the daisy hummed. The meadow held still as the seed began to glow, soft and golden, like a star waking at dawn. A tiny golden light floating upward from a white daisy in a meadow, with a rabbit and a ladybug looking up, the light drifting toward a distant horizon where the grass meets a soft blue sky, dawn light, watercolor style. The glow rose into the air, drifting past the daisy's leaves and over the rabbit's twitching ears. The ladybug spread her wings, catching the light. "Where is it going?" whispered the rabbit. The daisy's petals trembled as the golden speck floated toward the edge of the meadow, where the grass grew thin and the sky kissed the ground. A ladybug and a rabbit at the edge of a meadow, watching a glowing golden speck sink into a tiny humming seed lying on a fallen feather in the grass, with thin grass and a soft sky meeting in the background. The ladybug dove after it, her shell a tiny blur. The rabbit followed, his paws thumping softly on the soil. They reached the meadow's edge, just as the glow paused above a single fallen feather. There, nestled in the grass, lay a seed no bigger than a teardrop. The glow sank into it, and the seed began to hum. A whimsical meadow at dusk. A small silver and blue bell-shaped flower glowing softly in the grass, with a tiny luminous marble floating upward from its center. A ladybug and a rabbit sit nearby, watching in awe. Soft magical lighting, detailed grass and petals, childlike wonder. The humming swelled into a melody, and the seed trembled. A crack appeared along its side. From the crack, a tiny green shoot unfurled, reaching for the light. The ladybug and the rabbit watched, breath held, as roots wove into the earth like quiet fingers. The shoot grew leaves, then a bud, then a flower. A bell-shaped bloom of silver and blue. From its center, the glow emerged, now the size of a marble, and floated upward, leaving the flower shimmering with dew. The ladybug whispered, "It's making something beautiful." The rabbit nodded, his whiskers twitching. Or remembering. A luminous marble-sized glow floating above a silver-blue bell-shaped flower in a moonlit meadow, with a ladybug and a rabbit looking up from a grassy hill, soft light casting gentle shadows. The glow rose higher, casting gentle light on the ladybug's shell and the rabbit's fur. It pulsed softly, like a heartbeat made of starlight. The flower beneath it chimed once, a clear, sweet note that echoed through the clearing. The ladybug spread her wings. "It wants us to follow," she said. The rabbit took a step forward, his ears alert. Together, they climbed the hill where the glow hovered, waiting. A moonlit hilltop with a glowing silver flower, a ladybug on a petal, a rabbit kneeling nearby, and a burst of tiny stars spreading across the night sky, soft, magical lighting. At the top of the hill, the glow stopped above a single, silver flower. Its petals were made of moonlight, and its stem hummed with quiet music. The ladybug landed on a petal, and the rabbit knelt beside it. The flower opened, revealing a tiny seed that sparkled like a captured star. "This is the heart seed," whispered the ladybug. "Tonight, it will bloom into a new constellation." The rabbit gently touched it, and the seed burst into light, painting 1,000 tiny stars across the sky. A gentle, starlit night scene on a grassy hilltop. A silver flower bud glows softly in the foreground. In the sky above, a bright constellation in the shape of a leaping hare shines against a deep blue background. A small rabbit with a ladybug on its ear looks up in wonder, dawn light beginning to glow on the horizon. The rabbit and the ladybug watched as the stars swirled into a gentle spiral, each one finding its place in the dark velvet sky. A soft, warm breeze carried the scent of fresh rain and honey. The ladybug lifted off the petal and landed on the rabbit's ear. "Look!" she said. The stars settled into the shape of a great, glowing hare, leaping across the heavens. The rabbit's heart swelled with quiet joy. As the first light of dawn crept over the hill, the silver flower folded back into a bud, humming a soft lullaby. The rabbit smiled, knowing that every night the heartseed's constellation would run across the sky, a quiet reminder that even the smallest kindness can light up the universe. And so, with a tiny friend on his ear and a sky full of wonder, the rabbit went home, carrying the song of stars in his heart.